It was another crazy week of Big 12 football in week 7 of the college football season. And in this episode, brought to you by BetUS Online Sportsbook and Casino and Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner, attorneys at law, we're going to look at this week's tiered rankings of the Big 12 after week 7 results. What teams make a move this week? What teams don't make a move? Stick around and find out right after this message from one of those sponsors. Since 1931, the attorneys at Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner have been the voice for victims who have suffered serious injury or death. They have a fierce passion for truth and justice and a sincere compassion for those who have been wronged by others. Whether you have been in a car accident or fighting with an insurance company, or you or a loved one has suffered serious injury or death due to medical negligence, we will ensure your voice is heard loud and clear. Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner will ensure there is justice for all West Virginians because we are your lawyer, your voice. Visit us at yourlawyeryourvoice.com. What is up? Welcome into another edition of Couz's Corner. Pull up a chair, sit back, relax, and let me pour you out a shot of top-shelf college football content. On tap at Couz's Corner today, we're talking about the Big 12 Big 12 tier rankings. I don't call them power rankings anymore because technically they're not really power rankings. They're more results-driven rankings of what happened on the field this past weekend. And for those of you who are new around here, the way I do this is I'm going to do a screen share, obviously, and I'll be ranking the teams for you as we go through the show. And I don't do it beforehand because I want it to be more authentic. But the way I start is I start out by showing you last week's rankings. So let's go ahead and do a screen share, and I'll pull up my tier rankings. All right, let's make sure we can see it. Yep, and we're good to go. All right, let's start off with the Iowa State Cyclones. Iowa State coming off 28-16 victory over my West Virginia Mountaineers. They are 6-0 on the season, 3-0 in Big 12 play, and they are now ranked in the top 10 in the country. I think 8th is where I saw them ranked. Their defense continues to play at an elite level. They are one of the top in the Big 12, if not the top in the Big 12 in almost every defensive category. They're balanced on offense. They can throw it. They can run it. It seems like each week they have a new guy who stands out in the rushing attack. This week, it was a young man with the last name Hansen. Ran for over 100 yards. Rocco Beck threw for over 200 yards. They don't turn the ball over. They play disciplined football. They only had one penalty, just a really good, solid football team who don't make mistakes. And they're going to beat a lot of teams, and they have a legit chance to be the best team in Iowa State history. So far, they are now 6-0 for the first time since 1938. Matt Campbell broke the all-time wins record at Iowa State. He's going to go down as a legend there. They may even build a statue of this guy when he leaves. But Iowa State right now remains a top-shelf team in the Big 12 Conference. Next team on the list we're looking at is obviously the BYU Cougars. BYU also undefeated and also coming off a nice win. They are now 6-0 overall, 3-0 in league play, coming off a 41-19 blowout win over Arizona. Their defense, just like Iowa State, continues to play at an elite level. They forced 4 turnovers in the game against Arizona. Had another defensive touchdown. They continue to do that almost week in, week out. Their defense is scoring touchdowns. Had an awesome performance by linebacker Isaiah Glasker. Just quarterback, Jake Ratzlaff continues to do a good job managing football games. They do just enough on it. Look, they're not going to be great offensively, but they're doing enough to win games. All they need to do is play decent or just above average on offense and let their defense do the rest. Man, teams are just not scoring on this BYU team. And as long as they continue to play defense like that, their offense continues to get a little bit better each week. It's going to be a tough out for any team in the Big 12. They're 3-0 in league play, so I have to leave them right now as a top-shelf team in this conference. Next, let's go down to the contenders tier from last week and start out with Kansas State. Kansas State's 5-1 on the year, 2-1 in Big 12 play, coming off a 31-28 win over Colorado. In Colorado, a very tough win. They actually trailed in late in that game and were able to Avery Johnson threw a deep touchdown pass to put them ahead, and then the defense closed it out. DJ Giddens, another great performance, rushing for 182 yards on 25 carries. They won the time of possession by 10 minutes over Colorado, and they held Colorado to negative 29 rushing yards. That's right, negative 29 rushing yards. Now, Colorado doesn't run the ball a whole lot, but they weren't able to do nothing on the ground. Now, that did include sacks, obviously, of Shedeur Sanders, and Shedeur Sanders did his thing. But they were not able to run the football, and just, both teams had injuries during the game. And Colorado's on the up, man. They're playing some decent football right now. And DJ Giddens was able to get over 100 yards, the first 100-yard rusher against that Colorado defense this year. So that is saying something. Colorado's defense has improved this year, and for him to get 182 yards on the ground against them is impressive. Kansas State's still a good football team. Their lone loss is to BYU, who obviously is top shelf right now and playing at an elite level defensively. So as of right now, I don't think I can put Kansas State top shelf just because they did lose that game to BYU, and I don't think it's fair to put them on the same level, but I am going to leave them as a contender for this week. Next on the list, the Utah Utes. They're 4-2 overall, 1-2, and they fell to 1-2 in Big 12 play after a 27-19 loss to Arizona State. They've dropped 2 games in a row now to Arizona and Arizona State, 2 former Pac-12 teams, just like them. Like I said, it's their second loss in a row. Cam Rising came back from after missing 3 games with injury, came back and had a very rough day. 16 of 37 passing, 209 yards, 3 interceptions. Just could not get the job done. Now, Mekhi Bernard did have 129 yards on the ground, but they were so one-dimensional, just couldn't get anything going. I think they got stopped. I think they were in the red zone like 7 times, or past the 30 at least 7 times, and were only able to come away with 1 touchdown during those trips. Cam Rising ended up getting injured again in that game, and it was announced right before I came on the show. It was announced that his injury is season-ending, so he's going to be out for this season, and there's talks that he could potentially apply to play an 8th year. So we'll see how that goes. Utah's defense didn't play bad in the game. They did give up 343 yards, but let's be honest, they were not put in good situations all night. Their offense didn't help them out at all. So I really can't put this game on the defense. I put it mostly on the offense. And Utah right now just does not look good. Isaac Wilson's going to be the starter going forward. He's a freshman. He's extremely talented, but he's only a freshman. He's been turning the ball over at a pretty rapid rate. Utah is 1-2 in the league. I'm dropping them all the way down from a contender to a pretender. I'm not ready to put them at bottom shelf just yet. Well, you know what? I think it's only fair to put them at bottom shelf. They only have one win in league play. They've lost 2 in a row. They haven't looked good. I think it's only fair to put them as bottom shelf. Obviously, I withhold the right to move them up in later weeks. Next, let's go to the Colorado Buffaloes. Colorado's 4-2 overall, 2-1 in league play after a 31-28 loss to K-State at home. A close game, a tough loss. Could have won the game. Had a lead late, but gave it up. Shedeur Sanders threw for 388 yards. The defense gave up 423 yards to K-State. But, and again, allowed 182 yards rushing to DJ Giddens. Just could not do enough defensively to win that game. You'd think 31 points would be good for them. But unfortunately, K-State's defense was just good enough to not allow Shedeur Sanders to beat them. And again, Colorado was able to do absolutely nothing on the ground. But at the end of the day, K-State just made plays when they needed to make plays at the end. It's kind of what it came down to, and that's who won the game. So got to give credit to them. Colorado's still not a bad football team, I don't think, but I don't think they're a contender in the league right now. I'm going to drop them down to inner conversation. I still don't like the fact they're so one-dimensional. I'm a little bit concerned about the injuries they now have with Travis Hunter and pretty much their whole receiving core went out with injuries. So I'm going to put them down to end the conversation for now. But they are proving some people wrong, including myself. I think they're a better team than what I thought they were going to be coming into the year. Now let's move on to Texas Tech. They had a bye week. They came into the week 5-1, 3-0 in Big 12 play. And even though they did not play this week, they have the same record as BYU and Iowa State and have a path to Arlington. So I think it's only fair that I put them in the top shelf conversation. And how they are not in the AP Top 25 this week is absolutely baffling to me. So I'm putting Texas Tech in the top shelf category. To be honest, I should have had them there last week, but I didn't. So I'm putting them there now. Let's see how they do in the weeks to come. Next, the Cincinnati Bearcats. We're now dropping down to last week's in the conversation tier. Cincinnati 4-2 on the year, 2-1 in Big 12 play. Very, very close 19-13 win over UCF down in Orlando. They only rushed for 97 yards on the day, did Cincinnati, so they struggled to run the football. But Brendan Sorsby had a decent day through the air, threw for 241 yards, although he did throw 2 interceptions in the game, and he also threw for a touchdown. The defense for Cincinnati, though, held UCF to 13 points. UCF came into the game as the highest scoring team in the Big 12, had the best rushing attack in the Big 12, and that Cincinnati defense held them in check. Held R.J. Harvey for under 100 yards for, I think, the second or third straight week. And they recorded 4 sacks, including a sack by former West Virginia Mountaineer Jared Bartlett to close out the game, to seal the game for the Bearcats when UCF was trying to drive down the field and put in a go ahead and what would have been a game-winning score. So Cincinnati continues to play pretty good football. Even Coach Satterfield admitted it wasn't their best game, but they did enough to win. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. And they're 2-1 in Big 12 play right now. So I have to move them up to the contender list. They are in the conversation. They're a contender technically for the Big 12 championship. Let's continue with the in the conversation category. Another surprise team, the Arizona State Sun Devils. Arizona State, another big win, 27-19 over Utah. They're 5-1 overall, 2-1 in league play. They were balanced offensively, 167 passing yards, 176 rushing yards. Cam Scadaboo, maybe the most underappreciated player in the Big 12 Conference. The young man just does it all. He catches passes. Most important, he runs the football with authority. 158 yards on the ground on 22 carries. By far the best player on that team, at least on the offensive side. And how about this? Young man by the name of Cam McCullough, and I hope I pronounced his name right, on the defense for Arizona State. 2 interceptions on the game. Not only did he have 2 interceptions, he also had 12 tackles and 1.5 tackles for loss. So kudos to Cam McCullough for Arizona State. He and Cam Scadaboo, both 2 of the best players in the Big 12 in Week 7, and led their team to victory. Despite Sam Leavitt leaving the game, or part of the game with an injury, they were still able to pull off a win against Utah at home. So I'm going to move Arizona State up to a contender. I think they deserve it. They're 2-1 in league play. It's where they deserve to be. Now, I want to remind you guys, before we get on to the second half, I've done the first 8 teams in the league. Before we move on to the rest of the league, I want to remind you that you can place a bet. If you're looking for a new sports book, you can place a bet with our good friends over at BetUS, and you get 150% bonus on your first deposit and 125% bonus on your next 2 deposits with promo code YouTube150. Again, it's promo code YouTube150 at checkout. Get 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit, 125% on your next 2, up to $2,000. Make sure if you do so, you play responsibly, and you must be 18 years of age or older. Take advantage of that offer today over at BetUS online. Now, let's get back to the rankings here. I have to go on to my West Virginia Mountaineers. Last week, they were in the conversation. They drop a game, 28-16 to Iowa State. Now, Iowa State's obviously a very good football team, but West Virginia stepped on the rake in that game. They actually had better stats than Iowa State in several categories, but Garrett Green turned the ball over 2 times. They committed 7 penalties. Now, some of those penalties are controversial, but nonetheless, they're there. They committed 7 penalties. They were not able to run the football as well as they like to run it and as well as they ran it the week prior against Oklahoma State. They were only able to run for 148 yards, which is not terrible, but it's not West Virginia football. West Virginia usually runs for more than that. I mean, heck, they ran for 389 against Oklahoma State. And really the recipe for beating Iowa State was to run the ball for – I felt like they needed to run it for about 200 or so. They weren't able to do that, and thus they lost the game. And West Virginia's now 2-1 in league play. And even though technically that would put them up with Kansas State, Cincinnati, and Arizona State, the 2 teams West Virginia has beaten in conference are Kansas and Oklahoma State. As you see, they're both at the bottom last week. And they have not looked like a good football team in the games they've lost. So I'm going to move them. Well, I guess technically they have to stay in the conversation because they technically are in the conversation. So I'm going to leave them in the conversation for now. Even though I didn't like how they looked in the game, I'm going to leave them where they are. I'm not moving them down because they still, on paper, have a shot at Arlington. So I'm leaving them where they are. They have a big game coming up this weekend against Kansas State where they could really make a move. All right. Next, let's go to the UCF Knights, the first team on the pretender category from last week. I mentioned the 1913 loss to Cincinnati. They're 3-3 now overall, 1-2 in league play. They've lost 3 straight games. The one to Cincinnati, they lost to Colorado, and they've lost to Florida. They benched KJ Jefferson, the transfer from Arkansas, for EJ Colson in this game, but Colson struggled. He went 1 for 4 for -6 yards. So they bring in Ja'Curry Brown, who finished the game and played most of the game. He went 13 out of 20 for 207 yards and a touchdown. Played okay, but not enough to win. They had 397 yards of total offense, but they had been averaging 489 a game. So they fell off from where they had been. They also turned the ball over 2 times. You can't do that, especially against a team like Cincinnati who has a really good offense. And their defense could not stop Cincinnati on third down. Cincinnati picked up 9 out of 16 tries, or out of 16 tries on third down, Cincinnati was able to pick up first downs on 9 of those tries. So UCF continues to struggle some on defense. Their running game has fallen off a little bit from where it was, and they've been unable to get anything going in the passing game significant. So for those 3 reasons, UCF dropped the game. Now, I still think UCF has the ability to beat a lot of teams in this league, but they have a lot of players transferring out of the program. They seem to, for whatever reason, they seem to be a dumpster fire. I've had people send me messages, DMs, that are telling me they have people that know what's going on there and say it's a mess. The team seems to be quitting potentially on Gus Malzahn. So I've got to drop them down to bottom shelf right now. They're just not playing very good football. Let's go to Arizona. Arizona Wildcats. Noah Fafita. Another rough day on the office for him. But overall, Arizona's 3-3, and they're 1-2 in Big 12 play. They lose 41-19 to BYU. Noah Fafita committed 4 turnovers, 3 interceptions, and a fumble. Arizona as a team also committed 8 penalties. They continue to struggle to run the football. Only had 114 yards on the ground. And of those 4 turnovers, BYU scored 24 points off of those turnovers. So Noah Fafita on the year has 8 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. That's not winning football. It's bad football. Arizona's 1-2 in the league play. I've got to move them down to bottom shelf. Yep, I've got to move them down to bottom shelf. All right. Next, let's go to TCU. They had a bye week. They're 3-3 overall, 1-2 in the conference. I guess I'll leave them where they are since they didn't play. Houston, same thing. They're 2-4 in Big 12 play, or 2-4 overall, 1-6, or 1-2 in the conference. They had a bye week as well. Kansas, 1-5 overall, 0-3 in Big 12 play. As you see, they were in the well the week before. I guess I'll leave them there because they didn't play. And then Oklahoma State was also in the well. They had a bye. They're 3-3, 0-3. And then Baylor, 2-4. Baylor also had a bye week. So just like last week, teams that are lumped together had bye weeks. It's kind of odd how that worked out, but it did. And I tell you, I just don't feel good about West Virginia right now. Neil Brown's under hot water because of comments he made in the press conference. They haven't looked good. I'm going to move West Virginia down to a pretender right now, even though they're 2-1. And which of these teams did I get wrong? Which ones did I get right? I want to hear your opinions. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget the VIP shout-outs to this episode. If you want to join, hit the join button below or go to my channel homepage and hit join beside my profile photo. But the shout-outs to this episode go to Jack's son, Clark, new channel member here. Thank you, Jack's son, Clark, Andrew Starcher, Harry Austin, Chris D., and Matthew Sokos. Thank you all for your membership and for your financial support here on the channel. Also, want to remind you that I am a affiliate marketer of ONIT Athlete Trading Cards. If you want to support your favorite student athletes at your favorite school, go to ONIT Athlete Trading Cards. Go to their website. There's a link in my description box. Click that link. Go to the website. Buy your favorite ONIT Athlete Trading Cards. It'll support your favorite student athletes. 60% of the proceeds go to NIL. I will get a small commission from the sale, and you get yourself some really nice trading cards. You may even get yourself an autograph card, depending. Obviously, with these packs, you never know. But there are some available where you get a guaranteed autograph. There are some packs available where you get a guaranteed autograph. So go to ONIT Athlete and check it out today. Don't forget to tune in to Matt's Big 12 Blitz this Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, where he covers all things Big 12. Hope you tune in for that show. Hope the rest of your day is top shelf. And win or lose, I will always cue Country Roads.